The third game in the main Call of Duty franchise is Modern Warfare 2. It is a direct sequel to Call of Duty 4 and it's set 5 years after. Just some context for you guys, basically the Russian Ultranationalist Party, basically Zakayev's group, they won the civil war and they control the Russian Federation now. Tensions because of this are now really high between the alliance of American, NATO and pretty much all those countries against Russia. The tensions are climbing and we're basically on the brink of something big happening in the world. The borders are about to be redrawn. Let's get right into it. So as I just mentioned, this game takes place 5 years after. You are in the shoes of Private Joseph Allen of the United States 75th Rangers, and you're in Afghanistan, and you're teaching the locals, the Afghanistani military, how to properly use the American equipment. For example, the M4 rifles, the grenades, proper tactics that the Rangers use, and many other things that you'd be teaching them. You're basically over there and the Rangers are giving them a little kind of a boot camp sort of thing. At the same time, there is a man commanding your unit named General Shepard. And Shepard is the leader of this multilateral task force that's comprised of troops from all over the world, and he wants to recruit someone from the Rangers. So he thinks that you'd be a great candidate, so he wants you, Private Allen, to run through this course called the Pit. And in the Pit, you have to go through this kind of like a fake town sort of thing, and you have to make sure that you're picking your shots properly, making sure you're not killing any civilians, you're only taking shots at the targets, and you have to run through in a good time with a good efficiency and accuracy, and depending on your time, General Shepard will let you into the Spec Ops team. While this is happening, he is watching you and he's going to make his pick. So you better play really well and get all those targets hit. Alright, but after this happens, turns out that there is actually an attack in a nearby city and the American unit there is being pinned down. So the 75th Rangers have to go there and try to bail them out. Once you get there, it turns out that there is a bridge that was completely destroyed by the enemies, so the Americans brought a bridge layer. It's basically a tank that'll set down a bridge for you. It's just so that they can cross over and they can bring their tanks and their Humvees with them and not be just a land force. This makes it, of course, easier for them to go, and General Shepard will kind of call an airstrike on a building and utterly destroy it, allowing for the Rangers to move in really quickly and nicely. Once you guys get there, they find enemies at a school and there's a complete ambush. Many Humvees are destroyed, there's rockets being fired at you, there's multiple enemies that are taking shots at you, and even your Humvee gets destroyed and you're barely able to survive. Private Allen moves through the building, he clears out all the enemies on the top floor, and he sees the school. Him and the Rangers move through the school, they take out all the enemies there, they make sure that they clear it out, and once they get on the other side, they move through the streets, and eventually they link up with the other unit and General Shepard, and General Shepard says, "Well, Private Allen, you did a great job, welcome to my task force, and congratulations." And this task force is known as Task Force 141. On the other side of the world, there is a Russian military base in the Tian Shan mountain range, where two 141 operators, nicknamed Soap and Roach, are trying to get something from it. An American satellite has recently crashed in the area, and the Russians were able to get this thing from it called the ACS module. It basically contains all the patterns for all the satellites that the Americans control, and basically if they're able to crack it, the Russians might be able to do something with it. They might be able to act on an invasion possibly. So, being the great soldier that they are, the 141 has to get it for the United States. They move through, they're able to use the cover of a blizzard to move all the way through the tarmac, and they're able to plant a bomb on a fueling station as a secondary backup plan in case something goes wrong. And then from there they go to a hangar where they go inside, they kill the guards there, and they see the ACS module. Upon Roach leaving the cabin, he sees that Soap has been captured, and that is the definition of something going wrong. So in order to save their asses, Roach will detonate the C4 enough to distract the Russian troops, and Soap and Roach are able to clear out the enemies, and they're able to just get running. And they're being relentlessly chased by the entire Russian base, So they get to the edge of a sort of hill, and they slide down, and they get these snowmobiles. From here, probably one of the coolest parts of the game ensues. A snowmobile chase through the mountain range, and basically there is a whole military base nearby, so there's a lot of troops that are running exercises, and they're doing lots of other activities alongside you guys, and they're also shooting at you. Along with this, there's like a ton of enemy snowmobiles that are also chasing after you, so it's like really just like a lot of enemies. So using your aimbot G18, you're able to take down a lot of the enemies, and you're also being chased by an attack helicopter, which doesn't really help your situation, but that is what it is. You guys just swiftly move through, and you're just driving, and you're trying to find the best possible route to get to the evac. So Soap says go down the hill, and Roach and Soap both go down the hill, and they eventually see, oh, there is a massive gorge in between us and the evac chopper. So they end up actually just, jumping that gorge, and they make it to the chopper. And so after seeing this, General Shepard is explaining to Alan he's got to live up to the expectation of 141. So now General Shepard is assigning Private Allen to a special mission where he's going behind the scenes to work with the most dangerous man in the world, Vladimir Makarov. He was once one of the most powerful men in the world because of his ties to Zakhaev, but now Zakhaev is dead, and Makarov has his power now. He was kicked out of the Russian Ultranationalist Party, but he still harbors a huge support, and he's planning something despicable, and to get inside intel on that, Shepard's going to embed Allen within his team. Makarov now orchestrates an attack on Zakhaev International Airport, using NATO weapons like M4A1s, M240s, and others to make the terrorists look American. Along with this, they don't speak Russian, which is why the mission is called No Russian. Makarov and the men make their way to the airport, killing civilians, police, and FSB or Russian CIA officers. Makarov knew Allen's identity the whole time and kills him, leaving an American body at the scene, and the Russian Federation has now officially declared war on the United States of America for causing a terrorist attack with their weapons and their people. Knowing that the US was not behind the attack, Shepard commands Task Force 141 to prove the United States innocent, and prove that it was also orchestrated by Vladimir Makarov. Using a bullet casing, 141 is able to track the NATO ammo to a Brazilian gunrunner named Alejandro Rojas, aka Alex the Red. 141 goes to Brazil to track him down and interrogate him, where they run into his assistant, who kills some operators and goes on the run. McTavish, Roach, and Ghost chase him down, and then they shoot him in the leg and interrogate him. During this interrogation, Roach is sent with two soldiers, Meat and Royce, to the favela to capture Rojas. After fighting huge volumes of militia fighters, Meat and Royce are both unfortunately down, leaving Roach to become a literal one-man army against a 1,000-man army of the Brazilian militia. After pursuing Rojas for a while, it seems like he's about to get away, but Captain McTavish does not let this happen. So while this is happening, the Rangers are sent home stateside to a military base, when all of a sudden, large volumes of Russian fighters, cargo planes, paratroopers, and armor dropping in dot the sky. The Russians have started a full-scale mainland invasion of the United States. The Rangers are immediately tasked with rescuing an HVI known as Raptor. Raptor is found at a crashed helicopter where the Rangers are to save him. They keep him in the meat locker of a Nate's hot dog restaurant and eventually at Burger Town, where they're being continuously attacked by waves of enemy infantry, BTR tanks, attack choppers, and even a Predator drone that they're able to commandeer and use for themselves. They keep on fighting, hoping that the American support team will eventually make their way towards them, but sadly, they're not able to come in time, and they keep on fighting, and finally, after a really long fight, they're finally able to arrive, and they're able to freshen up the troops for another mission. Going back to Task Force 141 in Brazil, the Americans cannot send an extract chopper for Task Force 141, so the men are on their own. Luckily, McTavish is able to capture our is to able to contact our friend from Call of Duty 4, Nikolai, to pick them up. The men chase through the favela, completely overwhelmed by the militia fighters, trying to touch down at a soccer field. Nikolai takes heavy fire, and the soldiers have to find an alternate location to get onto the chopper. Along with this, the chopper is low on fuel, so they also have that to worry about. After running through rooftops, they're able to find a good place to set down the chopper to pick up the men, but Roach catches a loose roof plate and he falls to the ground, knocking himself unconscious. And with hundreds of militia fighters on the way, he wakes up, and armed with nothing, he's able to sprint through rooftops and other houses and everything, and he's able to jump off of a balcony and finally make it onto the chopper's ladder and get out of there safely. Back again with the Rangers, they are tasked to destroy some anti-aircraft guns. They fight their way through the Virginia suburbs with a Striker tank for cover and for firepower. Using this and a laser designator, they're able to take down lots of enemy targets and make the load on themselves a lot easier. After a long and intense close quarters battle, the squad are able to reach the anti-aircraft weaponry and destroy them. General Shepard directly patches into the comms and informs the men that they have to locate another HVI. The house where this HVI is also where a enemy plane has crashed. The American troops make their way to the house, and when their challenge does not receive a countersign, they realize that the HVI is dead. And the troops that were the Russian troops that were found at the scene had some special tattoos that really just demarcated them as being special forces. So meaning that this HVI held some importance to both the Americans and the Russians. Which is why the Americans gathered his briefcase and his intel. Looking over all the intel, Task Force 141 is able to realize that there is one man that can help win this war for them, and his name is Prisoner 627, and he's being held up in a post-Stalin era gulag that has been modernized. But the problem is they can't directly invade it because there are offshore and inland defenses and anti-aircraft weaponry that are stopping them from doing this. So the way they have to do this is first they have to attack some Russian oil rigs, save some hostages, disable the weapons, and then they can make the move onto the gulag. Joining the American naval fleet and the Marines, Task Force 141 is able to insert into the oil rig, and they're able to use suppressors and stealth tactics to make their way to an upper deck where they breach, kill enemies, and save hostages. Shortly after this, they keep on moving through when they're able to evade some enemy choppers. Again, they stack up onto the next room, breach, and clear. By now, the Russian garrison at the oil rig learns that the Americans are definitely up to something, or something is wrong in the area. So what they do is that they send a patrol to figure out what is going on. This patrol is finding something unlucky because Captain McTavish, the Soap, and the other 141 operators set up a C4 ambush for them when they arrive. When they arrive, it detonates, killing them, and starts a loud firefight. The American troops are able to fight through, and they're able to take down a lot of the enemies, and they push through really deliberately and slowly to the upper decks of the oil rig, when finally they're able to get to the final deck where there's a bunch of oil and C4 rigged to blow. And to make matters worse, the enemy has popped the smoke that can only be seen through with thermal sights. So using weapons that they've picked up off the ground or weapons that they may have, the United States troops are able to look through the smoke, pick off the enemies, and they're able to breach, clear out the anti-aircraft fixtures on the oil rig. Now they're given the green light to move on to the gulag. Their invasion of the gulag is straightforward. They start out in little bird choppers, picking off enemies with marksman rifles at the very top of the prison. They then land in the courtyard where they move in, and they are able to clear through lots of enemies inside of the prison complex. They then get to the inner cell block where there's lots of enemies inside of the cells, and they're fighting to make sure that the Americans and Task Force 141 does not reach Prisoner 627. He's not located in any of the normal cells, so they fight through, and they get to the security room where all of a sudden they're pinned down for a short while, but Ghost is able to hardwire them back in, and that he realizes that they can, since Prisoner 627 is not in the traditional cells, they can bypass it by going down and repelling, which they do. They then go down a drain, and they use night vision to get the jump on some enemy troops, not to find Task Force 141 being transferred. They fight through, go through sewage tunnels, and finally they reach one wall where there are only 2 remaining heat signatures, one of which must be Prisoner 627. They breach, clear, and they see the Russian soldier is being strangled by Prisoner 627, who turns out to be none other than Captain Jonathan Price. After a short reunion, the Navy begins their bombardment of the prison, and it's really quickly going to crap because it's collapsing on the Task Force 141 troops, and they might not be able to get out of there alive. After trying to jump for the little bird chopper, they realize that plan doesn't work, so they have to turn around and try to find a better way. They run to many different rooms, and eventually they're cornered in a cafeteria when Roach is dazed by rocks and Captain Price has to get him up. When Roach looks back, Captain McTavish fires a flare round out of his M203 underbarrel grenade launcher that signals the chopper to drop a spy rig to pick up the men, and they're able to be lifted out of there. Now, they have rescued Prisoner 627, who will definitely help in their effort to win the war. Now, back in the United States, the Rangers have moved their way to Washington, D.C., where the Russians have used multiple government buildings as strongholds, and they are fighting against the Americans to control the capital. Using tank fire, heavy suppressive fire from machine guns, and insertion of Navy SEALs, the American Rangers are able to make it into the building, and they're able to fight through and go from room to room, clearing out the Russian resistance, and as they go higher and higher, they finally get to the top floor. From there, they see an overlook to the Washington Monument evac site used by civilians to get out of the war zone. Up there, they find a thermal Barrett 50 cal sniper and a bunch of javelin rockets that they use to take down the Russian armor and snipe at the Russian troops with the javelin rockets that are bombarding the civilian evacuation site. After a long time of shooting down different choppers and destroying tanks and killing Russian infantry, a Black Hawk chopper lands on the roof of the building to get the Rangers to their next location and to destroy some enemy fixtures. This does not go as planned, because once they get on the roof, they're taking heavy enemy fire. So they're flying around and they're shooting at a bunch of different things like oil trucks and anti-aircraft weaponry and normal infantry and buildings that are filled with Russian troops, and eventually they're shot down. All of the troops are dazed, they have limited ammo, and they have not many options, and all of a sudden something happens that turns the tide of the battle. At the exact same time, there is a Russian submarine base on the opposite side of the world that Task Force 141 is infiltrating with the help of Captain Price. Sadly, Captain Price and Roach were separated from the rest of the group, but they are able to quickly rendezvous. They do this by using stealth to try to avoid enemies, and even when they are spotted, they try to just hide, and they are able to reuse stealth as to their advantage to get all the way up to a vantage point where they then slide down and they go loud and they meet up with the rest of the team of 141. Captain McTavish is in the sky, and he is getting a hold of Predator missiles for your use. Once the final attack on the Russian sub base starts, they have very limited time before the sub dives for water. So they fight through, and there's very little time that they have, so they're rushing as fast as they can to get this done, and they're using whatever weapons they can, and they're using AGM Predator missiles to take down enemy troops, and they're able to fight their way all the way to the submarine where Captain Price boards just before it reaches the surface and leaves. This goes wrong because Captain Price is not responding on radio, and all of a sudden a nuclear missile is launched towards the United States. Captain Price said this is good, but this is not a good thing, because a nuke in the United States would be horrible. But Captain Price's plan is, he will actually detonate the nuke up in the upper atmosphere of the Earth, where the shock wave will take out all of the Russian air support and turn the tide of the battle in Washington, heavily depleting the Russians' advantage in air power and vehicular power, and giving the Americans a fighting chance. From the International Space Station, the blast is seen. It's first presumed to be a satellite, but it turns out it is a nuke that obliterates the International Space Station and killing all astronauts on board. Along with this, it's an EMP that destroys all aircraft in Washington, D.C. Turns out that Whiskey Hotel, aka the White House, still has power, as seen by a runner who's trying to assemble a task force, trying to assemble American troops for a task force. The task force is at the White House, and they are planning to attack and reach through the East Wing. They're trying to get through the White House and get communication to Central Command. Once they get into the Oval Office, they hear that there is a hammer-down operation being planned for the White House, because they feel that if they can't save it, the enemy shouldn't have it. So the United States is planning to completely bombard and bomb out the White House, killing all of the men there and making it an unusable structure. They are told that if they want to counter this hammer-down strike, they have to pop green flares at the roof of the White House. So with very limited time, under 2 minutes, the American forces are fighting through the White House. They're destroying enemies left, right, and center. They're moving as fast as they can, and they're trying to be as efficient as possible. And they get to the very end with as limited time as possible. And just as they pop the flares, they are given a flyby by the bombers that would have destroyed them completely and utterly just a few seconds ago. Now, the tide of the battle in Washington has turned. The Americans are now victorious, and the Americans are ready to burn Moscow to the ground. Now, 141 is looking at even more of the intel that they've given, and they realize that Makarov can only be in one of two locations now, either in a boneyard in Afghanistan, or he can be in a safe house along the Russian and Georgian border. Ghost and Roach will take, along with most of 141, will take the safe house, and Soap and Price, along with a few other troops, namely one named Rook, will take the boneyard in Afghanistan. This is a good idea, because if you can't be in if Makarov can't be two places in one, you can be, and you will get him and bring him to justice. Following Roach, Ghost, and most of 141, Ozone, Archer, and others, they attack the house, but then there is an ambush with Bouncing Betty, mines, and smoke grenades, and enemies in ghillie suits, and they try to wipe you out as soon as possible, but they're not able to. And after all vehicles leaving the house are destroyed, and the place is breached and cleared, it is determined that Vladimir Makarov is nowhere to be found. But they found his master computer that has all of his files for all of his plans for his attacks. So, Ghost is the second best thing. He downloads Makarov's entire playbook onto a DSM file. But there's a problem. This DSM file also includes the fact that General Shepard planted Private Allen into the attack, meaning that this attack could have been stopped on the airport if Private Allen decided to just sacrifice himself and kill Makarov and his men, or if he were to do something different. But Shepard wants to be written down as a war hero. But for now, the rest of the team doesn't know this, and they download the files, and they fight a bunch of enemy troops that are attacking, and finally the download is done. They're being bombarded by Russian mortars when they're trying to escape, and Roach gets hit, and he's being dragged to Shepard's helicopter. And when they're picked up, General Shepard gathers the DSM, and then he shoots Roach in the waist, and his Ghost is trying to draw his gun. He's shot in the chest by General Shepard. General Shepard uses private military contracted troops to gather their bodies, throw them into a ditch, and light them on fire as his attack choppers liquidize the rest of 141 and Makarov's men. General Shepard wanted to be a war hero. He did this by first he was commanding the invasion force to get al-Assad. This was a complete and utter failure for him because it resulted in the loss of 30,000 men under his control. This completely drove him insane, and because of this, he wanted to start another conflict. He took interest in Vladimir Makarov and said, I can turn him into a major way to start a world war, and I can end it as well. This costed the lives of Task Force 141 and countless American men, women, and children in the invasion and the war. General Shepard tried to be a good guy, but he ended up doing everything to make him the bad guy. And with his forces now encroaching on the airfield in Afghanistan, Price and Soap now realize what Shepard's plan is. Price slits and kills one of Makarov's men, stealing his communications, and he's able to get a direct comm link to Vladimir Makarov. He then asks him for the intel site of where Shepard will be hiding, and he's given the location of Hotel Bravo site in Afghanistan. And Price responds saying, Price gets this information by telling Makarov, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and he learns. And Makarov responds saying that, you will learn that saying cuts both ways. Now everything seems to be going wrong for Price and the guys. There's only 3 men left, and the airfield is being bombarded by both sides. Now, not Makarov. A man named Nikolai, that great soul, is being flown in one last time to help extract the guys. Maybe not the last time, but he's definitely being helping again. So he's able to get his AC-130 Hercules to land for a quick touch and go. And in this time, after fighting through the entire airfield, Price, Soap, and Rook are able to get into a jeep, and they're driving towards the plane to get in. When Rook is hit, and now with his foot on the acceleration and his head down, he's not able to control the car because he's dead. So Soap has to, from the passenger seat, has to control the car and angle it towards the back of the plane, where he drives in, and they fly off safely. Task Force 141 has been depleted to 2 men, Price and Soap, arguably the best, but still not a lot. They don't have a lot of plans, they don't have a lot that they can do, but they do know where General Shepard will be, and that he's using private military contracting because of the blank check that the US government has given him. They're able to get whatever weaponry they can. They muster up 2 intervention sniper rifles, knives, flashbangs, grenades, the standard operating weapons, along with a suppressed Vector and a suppressed Scar. And the 2 set out with no hope of returning to get General Shepard and bring him to justice. Price says a few words saying that history is written by the victor, as General Shepard said, and he says that if Shepard lives and they die, Shepard's truth is written in history books, and Shepard becomes a war hero, and nobody will learn of the atrocities that he's committed, killing all of these men because he just wanted glory. The men, now with one goal in sight, they go to get Shepard and bring him in. They start out on the outskirts of his Hotel Bravo site, and what they do is they take down a few of the guards when they split off, and then the rest. And then they go in, they stealthily infiltrate the compound. It's a cave system, so they're moving through trying to evade all enemies, and eventually they get deep into the site and they realize that they've lost communication with lots of the troops. And they realize that something might not be right. It's definitely Captain Price. No, only one soldier has that precision and that kind of perfection to his craft. So General Shepard is being slowly moved to extract because they don't know if it's Price. They don't know if it's just a sandstorm that was moving in. All they know is that something's wrong. Now, Shadow Company breaches and clears a cave that has both Soap and Price in it, and they clear them out. They move further through the caves, closer towards Shepard. They can almost feel how close he is when there's even more enemies, and they're popping smoke, and they're using different tactics to try to throw them off. The mercenaries are saying how they're gonna get Price and Soap, and they're gonna get headshots for extra pay. But this is all to no avail, because Price and Soap are the two best, most legendary operators, and they're cutting down these guys one by one. And eventually they get so close that General Shepard orders a broken arrow strike on the munitions field that has a lot of his men. A danger close strike that costs the lives of more of his men just to save his own skin. Shepard is about to escape, but Price and Soap are closing in on him. They take out the guys that are landing on the freshly airstriked munitions yard, and they're able to move in to a cave that has river access. From there, they take 2 Zodiac boats. Shepard is less than 100 meters away the entire time that the Zodiac chase is happening. They're going between rock faces while Shepard is being chased by Task Force 141's operators. He's bobbing and weaving. This is almost reminiscent of the snowmobile section that Roach and Soap were on. Roach was the mentor there, and Soap was the mentor there, and Roach is now sadly dead. So now Price is the mentor, and you have Soap driving the vehicle, and they are chasing him down the water through these rapids, and eventually Shepard's Pavlo, the Golden Eagle chopper, lands on the water and picks him up, and everything seems to be lost. Shepard is extracted from the area, but Captain Price has a plan. He takes out his M203 grenade launcher. He first fires a shot as a guide, and then he fires the M203 grenade launcher, disabling the chopper and forcing it to crash down a waterfall. Believing that Shepard is dead, he tries to back up the boat, but then it all goes wrong when their Zodiac falls down the waterfall, and Task Force 141's last members are reduced to coughing and gagging because of the amount of water they just took in, and they're weak and they're staggering. So Price is passed out. Soap is stumbling, and he goes to the crash site, finds 2 pilots that are severely wounded, and General Shepard running away from the crash. He runs to a truck where Soap attempts to finish him off, but General Shepard evades it, and he puts Soap right in the ground and stabs him, and starts talking about how he lost 30,000 men, and Soap's sacrifice for his spot in the history books should be worth it. But just as he's about to be taken out, Captain Price stumbles forward, and he's able to punch and distract Shepard, and now his magnum pistol is right there on the ground. Soap crawls towards it, but it's kicked away by Shepard, and then he's kicked in the face, and he's now sitting there dazed, watching his captain being beaten up and killed almost by General Shepard. Soap sees that he only has one option, so what he does is, the knife still stuck in his chest, he gives every last bit of strength that he has, and he's able to pull it out. He then takes aim and throws the knife into General Shepard's eye, killing him, making their truth the truth. But the problem is, General Shepard is dead. Captain Price and Soap McTavish, 2 soldiers in the British Army, have killed a United States general, a 3-star general, one of the most powerful men in the United States military. This disavows them from all government lists, so now they're pretty much on everyone's crap list, and they can't do much about it. Soap is badly wounded, and there's not much they can do, but hours later Nikolai arrives, and they're taken to a site where Soap can recover in India. And that is the end of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign. This was a lot longer than pretty much anything I've ever covered on this series. It's only been like, I got like 12 minutes for COD 4 and like maybe 18, I think, for World at War. But this is a really long campaign and probably my favorite in Call of Duty history. Gameplay, I'd say that this game has cool little gimmicks that you can use, like the heartbeat sensor that they let you use, and they use the night vision kind of sparingly, but they also have repelling sections which are pretty cool. They have the two snowmobiles, the snowmobile and the boat sections, which I find to be really, really fun. Overall, those add a lot of like really fun parts to the game, and it just makes it like almost really action movie like. And yes, Modern Warfare 2 basically takes COD 4 and turns everything up to 11. But that's what's good about the game. I think that that's what makes the game so solid and so well received, is that it seems arcadey, which most COD players did enjoy. Some didn't enjoy, but many others did. I personally did enjoy it. Maybe it's not like my favorite thing about it. Maybe I wish it were a little more grounded. But I loved the fact that there was so much weapon selection and there was so much that you could do in the game. And one of my favorite things about this game was the museum section and the little Easter egg with the holding square on the little red button that would make all the enemies come to life, or all of the displays come to life, kind of like Night in the Museum. I think that was really cool. Gameplay overall, there were some stealth sections. Like my favorite mission probably in the campaign is The Only Easy Day Was Yesterday, which was the infiltration mission on the enemy oil rig, the Russian oil rig. And I also like the cool little things like the beginning of Contingency, where you and Price are separated and you're trying to be stealthy. I find that to be pretty cool. But I also really like the sections like in Exodus, when you're pretty much commanding the striker to just flush out Russians from houses and you're just using overwhelming fire. So I found that really fun. Overall, again, I'd say Modern Warfare 2 probably one of, if not the best campaigns in Call of Duty history. And this fame and renown would carry on to its two other modes, the multiplayer and the Spec Ops, but I'm not going to really get into that today. But this is pretty much all I really wanted to talk about Modern Warfare 2. It's a excellently crafted story. It picks up off of Call of Duty 4. It makes some cool details by having the Russians win the Civil War. But something also is really important. Their main mission, Vladimir Makarov, he's still at large. So now it's up to Modern Warfare 3 to decide what's going to happen. Will it pick up with the same story, or will it try to figure out what's going to happen with Vladimir Makarov, or what's the plan here? I think this is a really great campaign. I said this like 60,000 times. I don't even know why, but yeah, it deserves it. It's a great campaign, and it's an even greater game. And I think now it's left to Modern Warfare 3 to decide what happens to Makarov, what happens to Soap and Price, and what happens to the rest of the world, because after all, this is a world war, the Third World War, and we're going to see that pick up in Modern Warfare 3. So that right there is Modern Warfare 2. The next video that's going to be coming up is Black Ops. I'm planning on delaying the Black Ops video because I might have a special guest coming on the show to talk about the campaign with us. It's going to be a great video. It's one of the better campaigns. It's probably the second best, set in the Cold War. Alex Mason, the Soviet Union, brainwashing, and the numbers. What do they mean? So I'm expecting to have a really cool video out, but in the meantime, I will be uploading some GTA videos. I'll be helping you guys get started on pretty much how to run the businesses. The next video you guys should be looking out for is the CEO crates video. So overall, I'm excited for what's to come, and I hope you guys are as well. Have a great one, and I've been Captain Titan, signing off.